All right, I'm going to make this video in two parts. I first want to show you what I've come up with in the early draft stage after I set it up in the last video. I want to show you what I came up with in the early draft stage, and then I'm going to walk you through what I'll be doing in the middle draft stage. So let me show you what I did. I showed you last time how I chopped the picture up into four parts. I first took the kind of middle background section, and then I took the on the foreground in the left side of the painting, they had Zipporah here and the two children, and Moses at the front being confronted by an angel. And then the last section I took was Zipporah right here doing the circumcision of one of their children, and Moses off to the side. I did read up a little bit on the, some various pieces. I learned that all these individuals are essentially some of the nobility that were in Italy around that time. I didn't bother with the individuals, so I just learned that this is one of the sons, and this is one of the other sons. The younger one is being tended to. And then I took the painting as a whole. Now I want to be clear about this. You can take the painting in whatever order you want. You don't have to take the painting as a whole at the end, and you don't necessarily have to take it at the start. You can just chop it up into pieces. But you want to segment it out and take different perspectives on the painting as a whole. And let me show you what I did with it. And I just did the early draft stage as of right now. I first wrote a description of this part of the painting, of the central part, where Moses is off to the side, and this is his group, and these rocks are in the back, and this group is over here. I haven't covered them yet, but I really discussed what I had looked into. I read a little bit more on how he's leaving his father-in-law and taking Zipporah away. Jethro is his father-in-law, and those figures are essentially reported here. And what happened is I found that Perugino is definitely interpreting Exodus in a very unique way, and I did not really realize this until I got through it more. I got a better idea of what was going on. So Perugino is definitely interpreting Exodus according to a certain standard. I can see that. He's not just painting the picture of what's described there. And so Moses is seen as the leader as the people are about to leave Egypt. Okay, so I took that as a peaceful background to the story itself, because everything is calm there. Now, a mistake I made was I did not bring in beauty, and I did not bring in the sublime at all, because I didn't really know what I was going to do as I worked through it. And I'll show you that. But that was a mistake of mine. I'll have to address it in the middle draft stage. As I move to the front, the left side, the front left side, I noticed this kind of thing, that Moses is being confronted by the angel. And in the story of Exodus, he basically gets stopped, and Zipporah is the one who confronts or comes up with the idea of a circumcision, finishing it. And I did read various takes on that story out of Exodus, but it always is kind of pretty nasty. The story is. It's overall negative. Notice that Perugino has Zipporah very calm, and instead of really leading the group, he's in a leadership position, but notice there's a stone wall right here. The angel is stopping them. But notice that Zipporah takes in the form of the painting. And again, we're trying to do a formalist interpretation. She takes a central position. Even though she is not physically leading them, she captures the eye of the viewer. And so I see her as centralizing the painting and taking on more of a central role, even though she's not asserting herself in an overt fashion. So her decisiveness to realize that what needs to be done is a circumcision at this point, because they left without taking care of that, that would prepare one of the youngest sons for his adulthood, and it wasn't done. So she realizes it and says this has to be done. Notice the way the boys are calm. Moses is not really in charge, and the angel stopping everything. This is where I started to reconsider what I was doing, and I started thinking this might be a sublime poem because the leadership of the Jews is being disrupted. But I also noticed the way Zipporah is centering things. So in the form of the painting, she is acting as a central figure. Again, notice the triangle and the composure she has as a figure here. And notice the uselessness of Moses as he's leading them into a brick wall. So there's a disruptiveness being resolved. And so I started to assert the fact that Zipporah is creating a harmony. And Zipporah is doing that in displacing Moses. And here she is again performing the circumcision. And again, I want to come back to something I mentioned would probably happen, and it's happening here. Remember that the painter is, in almost all cases, interpreting the biblical story. Perugino, I think, is definitely doing that here. The story is fairly disruptive and fairly violent, I'd say. She takes the foreskin of the young boy and throws it at Moses and throws it down and says, a bloody bridegroom and all this other stuff. But notice she's not disruptive here. Perugino is showing the way her leadership, and notice the light on her, is dimming the goldness of him. So her position is becoming central, so he is being displaced, but it's not disruptive, it's not disquieting. It's creating a new type of harmony. So there's a replacement of Moses as the leader with Zipporah, and it's creating a harmony. So I'm going to ultimately hold, at least at this point, I believe, that this is a beautiful painting, both in form but also in narrative, that the narrative has become part of the form, but its beauty, it's creating a harmony that Perugino is trying to create by moving Zipporah into the kind of the moral center of the painting, but also the intellectual center, because right here it dawns on her what she needs to do and what needs to happen. She doesn't assert herself over Moses. She just gets centralized because she has maybe an intuitive sense of what really needs to be done without any, kind of harsh leadership role, and he backs off. And so I see her as displacing Moses, but it's creating a harmony. That's why I'm going to interpret this painting, at least as of now, as a beautiful painting. And so that's what I did. That's the process I did in the early draft stage. I will now take this and move it into the middle draft stage, and let's see what happens, okay? Stick with me for a bit. I'll be right back.